Without further ado, and I'm going to kind of combine the introductions with the opening questions and try to make the best use of the time. So, going this way, but without too much formality, if you don't mind talking about kind of where you are in the landscape. We have, a lawyer, we have 2 founders, and we have an early small business resource. So I'll leave it broad, but let them fill in the details with some more color. So, you want to kick it off, Chris, and talk about what you offer and what resources you might have utilized to get to where you are today?
Perfect. My name is Christopher Hussain. I'm the CEO and founder of Railkey. We're a mortgage technology that is currently raising a Series A. Just to give you an idea of where we are, we're at about 4.7 million ARR after launching our product back in late 21. One of the only mortgage tech companies still growing right now. So happy to go through and provide some of my learnings over the time, fundraising, going through and bootstrapping, growth hacking, anywhere where I could be of value.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric Stunheim, the CEO and principal at Mercovis Valuations. You may be familiar with a real estate appraiser. We value intangible assets, so that could be stock, crypto, options. Can't put a finger on it, we'll put a value on it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Stephen Franklin, United States Small Business Administration, San Francisco District Office. Just wanted to let you know that our district director, Chris Horton, was supposed to be here today, and I'm filling in for Chris. So if you looked at information, you might see his name on that. But just really, as far as the SBA is concerned, just wanted to give you an overview of the SBA, our products and services, not just for early stage, but just for business in general. We have a very broad array of products and services. And the great thing about it, you probably hear me say this again, is you've all paid into it and paid for it. So why not use it? It's all taxpayer money.
Yeah, Varun Gupta. I'm a lawyer, practicing lawyer for 27 years. Last 10 years, I've been general counsel for a few startups and been there from the beginning and helped them exceed billion-dollar valuation. So, love working with founders and startup companies.
Very nice, thank you all. So, without further ado, resources is a pretty broad word. As far as support goes, a lot of people rely or lean into the financial capital and kind of neglect what is, I like to say, social capital. I'm opening the floor, so I guess there's no person that's targeted at, but with regards to that paradigm, where do you find, or how do you help and alleviate those who may not be seeking solely financial capital burdens?
I can start. Someone on the last panel noted that you can get a lot of good help fractionally. So if you're a small company, you think, oh, I don't need an HR person. You need this much of an HR person, and you can find that in the market. And the place to find those is find that one person you know and trust and like already, and they'll know all the other people in accounting, finance, attorneys, and so get that good relationship. Usually it's your general counsel, I find, is the first person, but it could be your appraiser or whoever you happen to know, and then go from there.
I would definitely second that. We actually got the majority of our contract workers, specifically in HR, accounting, finance, actually came from our legal counsel originally. So our legal counsel put us in touch with our CPA that coincidentally got acquired 2 different times, and we got grandfathered into those terms. Great. She put us in touch with our bookkeeper, who is at a great monthly rate. And then we also have all of the rest of our HR and whatnot is been outsourced. We try to outsource as much as possible. We have a fractional CFO. Definitely try to make our capital go as far as it can and treat every dollar like it's the last dollar wherever we get.
You know, without mentioning any type of specifics, the one thing that the Small Business Administration does is we provide resource partners. So these resource partners are there. The 4 main resource partners that we work with in Northern California and nationwide is the Small Business Development Centers, the Women's Business Centers, Veterans Business Centers, and SCORE. So if you're looking for advice on any of these type of services for your business, for the market, those services are provided for you through these resource partners at no cost. You can use them at any time. It's a quick, easy intake process to get you started, but those services are there, and they do have advisors that might have some expertise in workforce management, expertise in HR, expertise in marketing, and those services provided at no cost.
Yeah, and I was a former partner at Latham & Watkins. You know, my rate was probably about $2,000 an hour. So what I find talking to a lot of founders is that they don't realize they don't need to work with big law at this stage. And they really just need a real partner, not a law partner. They need a real partner who is available to them on WhatsApp or text and to answer questions as they come up. And he doesn't need to bring a team of 5 other lawyers. It's somebody who's experienced and who has the network, who can introduce them to other like-minded professionals. Now, the reason I choose to operate this way is I'm a bit older. I have time on my hands. My kids are out of the house, and I enjoy working with founders. So I think you have to find that person that you like, you respect his experience, and you don't have to pay him by the hour.
It's super important. Thank you for sharing that. And to kind of tag on to that, what Varun was saying, and I was joking with Eric prior about some quotes I may bring up, and here we go. So the one and only Pat Riley, one of the best coaches of all time. Controversial, but we'll leave that aside. And that being said, we mentioned it in the prior panel as well about the power of coaches, and as you alluded to, the partners and the human behind the other side. So Hall of Fame basketball coach and NBA coach, if you're not aware, Miami Heat currently, and he says a coach is someone who has you do what you don't want to do, hear what you don't want to hear, see what you don't want to see, so that you can be the person that you are always meant to be. Do any of your experiences reside in that type of way, where there was somebody who might have been seen as maybe a little bit too much to the bulk, but was actually a pivotal contributor to where you've gotten today? And do you find yourself acting as that person?
I do, because I think as you have been practicing law for many years, you have seen crazy things that give you some judgment, that give you some perspective. So when you work with young founders, I enjoy that a lot, like sharing my perspective or my experience with that person, and he comes to me with some awful problem, but there are always ways of looking at the situation in a different way, which makes the problem much more manageable. So I do, in addition to practicing law, I really appreciate just talking to founders and getting them through, things that look impossible.
I'd say there's maybe a balance to that. So I definitely want to hear being open-minded. Everybody, if you are a founder, you should definitely, I pride myself on the fact, and I was telling them that our 10 commandments are the same as my marriage. Rule number 1, be logical. Every other rule refers back to rule number 1. At the end of the day, when I talk to my mentors, my investors, those are at the end of the day, those are my boss as a CEO. I do want to hear what they have to say, but there is definitely a better way to go through to present things. And I've definitely had some investors where definitely in some of our most troubled stages showed that they could not handle bad news. And so we did find other investors that could handle those and could go through and help us to find a way out, rather than belittle us or make us feel like we were little, or try to go through and talk down to us. Definitely that's something that if I'm looking at a coach, I want to be pushed hard. Definitely, I'm going through BT right now, and that was exactly the advice I got yesterday. I'm going to push your ass as hard as I can. You're not going to like me, but you're going to thank me later on. But he was able to do it in a way that didn't feel like he was looking down on me, like he was actually there to help me. I think that's what's very difficult for some mentors to understand, is that, yeah, you've done a lot, but I want you to also liken yourselves to my current position. If you came from a background where everything was handed to you, everything came easy, and funding was super simple, and you've never been where you've had to go through and bootstrap and bootstrap and bootstrap, then it's very hard for you to go through and to see things from my eyes. And I think you need to put yourself in that position to really give good advice. You need to put yourself in the position of the founders that you are mentoring and giving advice to.
I have a unique perspective as being both an advisor to startups and then starting my own firm 5 years ago. And I got some advice in that process where I was really focused on just the first couple months and trying to make it. And an attorney told me something I didn't want to hear, but she said, you know, you really need to be focused on where this is going to put you 2 to 5 years out. And I was just thinking, I might not even exist in 2 or 5 years. So I think having that team with all that experience who can say, you know, I do this from a valuation perspective. You may think you want to argue this now, but when this comes under audit or when there's an acquisition, let me tell you how this is going to play out, because I've seen it play out this way before. So to use advisors that have that perspective and give you that experience and tell you those things that you don't want to hear while being on your side is very valuable.
And as a resource provider, of course, we don't have a lot of interaction as coaching as an individual or as an office. But my background, I was a U.S. Marine for years, and believe me, you could call it coaching when you have people telling you what to do. But the great thing about it is it's the discipline to take information that you're receiving from other people and put it into action. My biggest thing is procrastination with individuals I see at meetings, at our events, and 6 months later they hadn't started the process, or they haven't continued with the second or third phase. And I let them know that, you know, especially when it comes to the federal government, everything runs in cycles of the current administration. So if there is an administration that's more pro-business, take advantage of it, because of course we're getting ready to possibly change things again. So you can't wait. You have to be proactive and take the information from coaching and individuals and move forward anytime you can.
Absolutely, that's super important, and I'm actually glad you steered in this direction, because we've been talking a lot about the social and humanistic side of the resources, and it's invaluable, to say the least. But to steer it back towards financial, and kicking off with you, I think that you have a very unique insight about what differences there are, especially in regards to that of, let's say, pre-seed to seed to Series A. I mean, this is a whole can of worms, each of those, but even getting from that 0 to 1, there's still endless numbers of sub-bullet points. And I think that the resources you provide are in a very unique position. So you can involve as many details as you want about what it is that you're looking at as a current company, but do you mind shedding some light on what alternatives there are to traditional venture funding if somebody were trying to start a startup, per se?
Yeah, I mean, as far as our resource partners go, of course, thing that a lot of people don't realize is the SBA, we don't do loans. The only loan the SBA does is for disaster relief. And we come into markets and communities that if once there's been a declaration of a disaster declared by our current president, then the SBA can come in and help the businesses and individuals with homes and things like that get back on track. But because of our resource partner model, those could be banks, those could be credit unions, those could be community lenders, and they underwrite these products. The SBA provides a product and service. The main thing the SBA does provide is insurance in case something goes wrong with that loan, that the government will come in and pay a large percentage of that. So if I have lenders and people from banks, I'm not speaking about any one bank, but underwriting still controls the process. But every loan is not specific to a major national chain and their criteria, because the community lender, who's also funded by the SBA, might have a different set of requirements. The money is what the difference is. I mean, the SBA can do a loan up to $5 million for various different things, which makes it a great loan for early stage because it's not specific. It could cover real estate. It could cover equipment. It can cover purchases. It can cover you getting the workforce going for those new employees. So the requirements are a little bit different. Some people say that, of course, the federal government's going to take longer. But if you start tomorrow, looking at how to get an SBA-backed loan, working with a resource partner like the Small Business Development Center, that time frame and for the amount of money that you're trying to get cuts down dramatically. It's not a long-term process.
That's super insightful because I, again, was recently an undergraduate and had to deal with a lot of the variations of, oh, do I apply to this incubator? Do I go for a grant? Do I go for a loan? And actually, these are incredibly different fields and options. And it's really cool to know that beyond the circle of college that there are similar options, but equally as in detail, that you need to pay attention to detail, excuse me. And that is a very eye-opening experience as I start to differentiate myself in regards to, as a hopeful full-time founder soon enough. Is it a startup? Is it a organically self-sustained, revenue-driving machine before I begin speaking to investors? There's a lot of variations and some confusion, quite frankly. So to that tune of things, do you find all four of you in your coaching or working with small businesses and early stage, that there's lack of clarity in these founders or potentially other problems that may not be as easy to, let's say, articulate or quantify or highlight that may be the root cause? Repeat that too, because that wasn't clear.
In the area of legal support that most founders need, there are now so many resources on the internet, right? So explanations of the different kinds of financings, which legal entity to choose. All the major firms have put out forms of agreements to be used. Now, it is a bit scary, I think, for a founder to try to do his own lawyering, but it doesn't hurt to, spend spend a couple of days and read as much as you can and have all kinds of questions, and then go to a lawyer with some gray hair and say, hey, I have all these questions. Can you help to answer them, right? That's what we love to do. We love to work with clients who are informed and self-starters. So if you've already read it, maybe you have misinterpreted half of it, which is fine, but that's what we really love to do, is to talk to a person and say, hey, no, let me explain. You're halfway there, but this is what it really is. This is how you would do it. So even within the legal area, I encourage you to use these resources. So Cooley is a major firm. They have, a page called Cooley Go, which has, and Cooley's Cooley. I mean, I'm a former Latham partner. I have a huge amount of respect for all the major firms, Cooley, Wilson, et cetera, and they have gone beyond their traditional roles and have put out these resources and actual forms of agreements, et cetera, and go play with them, go use them. And then you will be better prepared when you come to a lawyer to talk about, hey, what is needed for my own company?
I think that at the earliest stages, it really is valuable for anybody who's starting, maybe yourself especially. I think we were talking about this was, if you have never done a startup, you really should join an incubator. I'm just going to put that out there. It could be a Y Combinator, 500 startups, it could be Techstars. Granted, some of these take larger portions of equity, but they do give you a name brand, and also they give you validation. If they accept you, you must have something, because it's very competitive to get into those. If they reject you, there are alternative options, and you may have been the next best option, so don't be too down on yourself. But definitely the incubators in general are there to help you out. They're going to help you to make sure you get the proper legal setup, that you're doing this as, you know, a proper Delaware C Corp, that, you know, all of your equity is set up properly, that your deal room is there, that your finances are there. They're going to give you resources and mentors and things that would normally cost you money, and that's why they're taking equity, is that they already have done a lot of this for you, and they're putting it in front of you. And at the end of the day, they can also make those initial introductions. We're talking about equity and getting venture capital, getting angels is definitely something I recommend. Get out there, go to an incubator, you're gonna go through, and one of the big things they're gonna have you do is pitching, and you're gonna fall flat on your face, you're gonna fail the first few times, you're gonna stutter, you're gonna ask you a ton of questions and try to bully you. That's a good thing, because you should go through being bullied first before you actually get in front of actual investors and you don't know any of the answers and you look like a moron. I did that at one point. So that was how I originally started off, and I'm very thankful that I was put through all of that. And eventually, over time, I got better and better and better, and started winning pitch competitions, started going through and getting more comfortable in front of investors. And you start being able to do those 2-minute pitches, those 30-second pitches. And you start getting comfortable being on panels in front of people. Things that, you know, I definitely was not able to do when we first started this business. Was used to be more of the COO behind the scenes instead of the CEO in front of everybody. And so I definitely think incubators are going to help you out a ton. Definitely can help you get your first check-in, give you your first valuation, get the ball rolling, because the hardest thing is to get the first investor. The easiest thing is the last investor. That last investor is just falling into your lap, whereas the first investor, you are going to go through a lot of conversations. It really is, sometimes it does become a numbers game, it feels like. As much as we try to go through and get introductions, we fit perfectly into their thesis, everything's cooking. It could get all the way down to where you've got the analysts, the partners, everybody loves you, it gets to LPs, and they're like, nah, we don't like mortgage, we don't like residential. That just literally happens all the time, and we've gotten that quite a few times, even in the current round, in past rounds. Sometimes it's just timing.
Yeah, one anecdote occurs to me. I had a client that was a Canadian company, and they were pretty far along, and they wanted me to put together a report justifying a cost of debt of 18% for this pretty successful company. And this was years ago when rates were much lower. I turned down the assignment. I gave them a phone number of somebody at SVB, back when SVB existed, and they got the debt at that much lower rate. So again, it's just relying on advisors, knowing that there are many options out there, and that the idea that you have in your head, you know, they were going to go to the board and argue for this rate, may not be the best path out there.
Absolutely, and as we were discussing it prior, as a new graduate, it's funny because I also had to write my thesis, and it had to do with Y Combinator and a lot of those processes within those first touch ecosystems for hopeful founders. So I'm not going to unpack that, but if you want to talk more after, I'm happy to. That being said, what are some of the, just let's say, if you could give yourself one piece of advice as you are soon to become who you are today, choose your age, let's say graduate. I'm 24, so when you were 23. What's that one piece of advice you would give to yourself that would hopefully compound and matriculate to the successes you have today?
First, one of the advices that I would probably give my younger self is, especially if you're going into entrepreneurship and you want to be a CEO and you want to raise capital, is that in many cases, as much as I hate to say this out loud, and I don't mind doing recording because it's the truth, is that it is very formulaic how many venture capitalists and many investors go across things. There's definitely certain check boxes that you want to have. Definitely going to Berkeley, very valuable. Went to Davis, I love Davis, I think it's a great place, but at the end of the day, becoming a CEO, if I was going through and I was on a technical side, it makes sense, but maybe going through and raising capital. Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Berkeley, there's definitely a value there. I call them the check boxes of what we call, the best looking person in the room to a VC, is somebody that checks off all the boxes that they're looking for. And so if you go to work also for where you work for is very important. I made a name for myself. I was a top mortgage originator in the US for 2 straight years, only person to hold a license in all 50 states. I could go on and on and on. So these are the things that helped me overcome the fact that I didn't go to Stanford, or that I didn't work for Meta, Google, and whatnot. I'm definitely a subject matter expert in our field, but these are things that could have made it easier had I gone to the right schools, had I gone to, or not right schools, I'll take that back, Davis Grade School again. But had I gone through and maybe taken an internship at McKinsey. Maybe gone through and taken a stint at an investment bank or worked with some VCs. These are things that investors do look for many times, and that's actually what they if you look at what they fund, that's what they fund. And it's a reality, but it's a stark reality. I hate to say it, it's not right, but it is the reality. And the more of these boxes you check, the less you have to overcome by having a great startup that hits all the boxes, profitable, everything else. If you check those boxes, it becomes much easier. That's advice I give my younger self.
One piece of advice I would have, the last panel made me think about that founder who just gave their 20-minute pitch without focusing on what the VC wanted, is just to make your company, your career about helping other people. And that's one of the most awesome things about capitalism, is you get paid for helping people. So whatever your startup is focusing on, or whatever you're focusing on, if you're just focused on, okay, I'm meeting with the VC, what does the VC want? The VC wants to make money. How do I help them do that? That would be the approach for every relationship. How can I help this person?
Just real quick too. The thing about the early stage, and then you try to do a Google search on an SBA.gov website, you probably won't find a lot of things that come up with that, because there's nothing specifically that's going to mention early stage. But as talking to people on this panel, and we talked about access to capital, a lot of them realize, wow, that's a lot of money. There's good money these for loans through the SBA they never realized. So instead of waiting for that home run, this is a great place to get established, a great place to get a loan to get the ball rolling until you get the serious money that you're looking for your venture. So that's always there, and we also have people to help you, advisors and counselors to help you put that package and information in. It's not like you go to a website, you put information in, and you wait on an answer. We have technical assistance provided throughout the whole process, possibly tweaking the plan, marketing strategy, those type of things that are provided at no cost.
I'm good. I'm not sure. I think, I think that's a very personal question, because I think each of us are so different that the advice that I would give to myself is based on who I am, which is I always think that it's not possible, right, from a legal perspective, and what I end up finding is that it is possible. You do have to push the envelope. And pushing the envelope, I think the best example is Uber, which everybody can appreciate. They literally were violating the municipal code of every city in America by picking up passengers, and they ultimately found that their product was so good that the consumer demand ended up changing the laws of all these municipalities. And crypto is the second example. So I've been in crypto for 10 years. I've been GC at companies that were crypto companies, and that's another example where when I first came in a crypto company as, this experienced securities law partner, and my CEO said, oh, we want to sell, Bitcoin derivatives to the public. And I just looked at my CEO and said, like, you're an idiot. But, maybe he was right. I should have pushed the envelope, because now we have a Bitcoin ETF. And so 10 years later, right? So what I'm finding is that, yes, some of these founders have amazing ideas, and PK there is one of my clients. He has an amazing idea. And I am here to help him push the envelope to make the idea work. And so anyway, as a lawyer, I keep telling myself, yes, I'm a legally trained, person who's supposed to comply with law, but maybe there's a product behind this idea that will need to, really push the envelope when it comes to what the law is.
I love that. And just to recap, do the hard thing, do good, and in the uncertainty, the opportunity will lead you to doing well. It sounds like, and hopefully that encompasses some of what you guys shared there. We have about 3 seconds remaining, so I was going to offer the opportunity for audience questions, and